Welcome to Burning the Boats.
Jose, my brother from another mother, how are you doing, man? What's going on?
Hey man, good to be here. I'm pumped to do this. I love you, man. I thank you for the invite.
Yeah, man, of course. I think it's going to be pretty interesting talking about how a rocket scientist pretty much was like, "Nah, I'm good," and decided to go into this whole crazy world of entrepreneurship. And so, really, what I want to do is just bring that story to light and talk about the commitments and sacrifices you had to make along the way, because you also did it while having a family, right? So whereas
Right.
my biggest problem was the fact that, I was a millennial and I didn't know what my purpose was. And at 25, I was like, what is going on with my life? And I decided to jump ship. Yours was a little bit different. So how about you bring us up to speed?
Yeah, I mean, just one of the things that I think I admire you about, and it's so. First of all, I think you have bigger balls than I do because I would not have burned the boats and gone all in. So I don't have it in me. Like, so I needed to, for me, it was always started as a side hustle and it grew from there to a full-time thing. But yeah, I'm a mechanical engineer by training, full on school, went to school and born and raised in Puerto Rico. And I went to engineering school down there, moved to the States after I got my first job out of college in Denver, Colorado. And I've always been entrepreneurial. I sold stuff on eBay when I was in college to just pay for beer money. Although that back I'm a lightweight, so it doesn't take a lot. But yeah, so it was something that it was always in me, and part of it was the idea of like I needed or kind of needed a job to have some stability and whatnot, but I wanted to have the opportunity to have unlimited amount of like income basically, or like call my own shots. And the thing with entrepreneurship that I discovered was like, yeah, if you, as long as you work hard and do, the right thing or like work, you kind of like, you have no ceiling basically. And to me, that was always appealing. And come to find out that it was around the same time that like Facebook was starting and social media was starting. It was kind of like, so I did have a lot of success just posting stuff on eBay and then just sharing it on Facebook and sharing other places and just finding traffic like that. But one of the turning points was when I had a roommate that he's the one that turned me into eBay. He used to sell soccer jerseys, and I know you appreciate the soccer theme there, but
Uh-huh.
he was always like, hey man, I have some extra money. And to me it was like, how is he getting all this money? Like, how is it always um so to me that was one of the eye openings when I realized, oh, he's actually making a lot more money than some of the people some of the people that actually have like jobs. And anyhow, long story short, I went to States. I moved to Colorado, and I started my engineering career. But I always had the side hustle side of it, and I always started doing. I tried everything from niche marketing to private label and eBay and AliExpress when it was Alibaba when it was before it was AliExpress. And um, so I tried all those things, and nothing kind of really worked. Um, and partly I think was because I was doing what I later learned is one of the things that causes entrepreneurs and business people and side hustlers like me, cause them to actually not make it. And to me was I was self-sabotaging myself because I was not giving anything a real fair chance.
Mhm.
Like I would try this for a month and then didn't work, and I saw it's like the shiny object syndrome, and there's opportunity everywhere, which means you don't focus on anything. Um, which still to this day I still have to fight back and try to like corral myself because I see I can see myself making money here, I'm making money there, and to me it was like if I can get this little project to make $1,000 and this other little project to make another $1,000, and they all come online, I make like however many $1,000. I'm like, that's never going to happen in reality. I mean, but to me, and it was around 2000. So around 2000, like 12, 13, on 2012, I got married, and 2013, we moved from Colorado to the East Coast. We're in Connecticut now. And right around that time, I was kind of fed up because nothing was really, at this time, I really started my learning. And that was the other thing. I had spent a lot of money in courses, and I have gone through all of them. So I had a lot of like book-ish knowledge on a lot of these things. But nothing had really kind of like worked out to me, like, again. And I kind of had given up. I was like, you know what? This is not enough for me. It's not going to happen for me ever. It was kind of more, it wasn't like I was in denial. I was just like, I'm just tired of trying things, and I'm not going to do it. And right around that time, my wife and I, we went on a trip out to Greece. And I'm sorry, I don't know if that intro, this is still the intro. I'm just going.
I'm just keep going, man. I'm taking mental notes here on things I want to ask. So just,
so,
hey, you're Puerto Rican, so I know you guys can just roll.
Yeah, you say, hey, what time it is? What time is it? 10 minutes later, still
hey,
talking
all right,
about.
podcast over. That's it,
Yeah,
guys.
it's like,
Thanks.
And at the end of it, like, you actually never told me the time. But the idea of it, so when we went on that trip, we were just, touristing out, right? And then we got into a pretty serious accident while we were out there, and I broke a lot of things.
This is where you got hit by a truck, right?
Head-on collision with ATV versus truck. ATV versus truck. So I wasn't even in a car. I was in an ATV driving, and we head on with a truck, which it makes me sound more badass than it really was. In reality, the truck driver saved my life because he kind of almost fully stopped like his roll before we actually hit. So he definitely saved my life. But so I was, that was 2013, and then after that, I was on disability. I mean, I'll spare you the whole detail. It was a whole epic saga, just being in Greece and being in a foreign country that you don't speak the language or can't even read the letters on the language, right? So it was interesting, but that's a story for another day. But came back to the States, and I was in disability I had a great job. It was an engineering job. It was a great company. It took care of me really well. So I was just basically not doing anything for about 4 months. And then right about that time, I was like, you know what? All these like domains that I still own and all these things that I still kind of have there, I'm just going to like collecting digital dust. I'm just going to like dust them off and try to like see what happens. And then at the time, the whole prepping and survival was always curious to me. I think this was like before Doomsday Prepper show came out. It was, I don't know how I stumbled upon the market. I just know that people were making money in the market. Gotcha. So I had no idea. I had zero idea about preppers. And
now I want to talk about the prepper stuff in a little bit, but I want to interject here because as the listeners can probably tell, like it's just like idea after idea after idea after idea, right? So you mentioned that like while you were growing up, you've always been entrepreneurial. So like, where do you think that comes from?
I don't, it's probably genetic. My grandfather had his own company. My uncle is an engineer, but he also has his own engineering firm company. I know I just always see I grew up like my grandpa would just take me to his shop and do his thing, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And my grandma would be like, it was like my grandma was the secretary, my grandpa was doing the thing. They had like 4 employees doing their it was like injection molding mixed with something. I mean, I don't even remember. I mean, if I go now as an engineer, I'll probably figure it out. But back then it was just like rocket science, obviously. Like it was super interesting, super complex. But I think partly that I really haven't pinpointed it out to any part of my upbringing or education other than I grew up in Puerto Rico, which, I mean, that, we sold like chocolates and we call it Mallorcas, like little, like
Hmm.
kind of like for just for
Yeah.
fundraising. I remember I used to play tennis, and my mom bought, she gave me I asked her like if I needed a new racket. She said, I'm not gonna buy your racket. I'll give you money so you can buy. She sent me to buy like those chocolates that you fundraise with.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she gave me that so I could, like, she bought me that so I could just go sell them and then go buy the
So she
racket.
gave you startup money.
Basically,
That's what she did.
she funded my inventory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So okay,
definitely.
so it sounds like you were just naturally exposed by your family to like this entrepreneurial
Right.
like mindset and lifestyle, right? And it's like, I mean, how much more experience can you get outside from, hey, you want a new racket? We'll go sell some candy and then build up enough cash to go buy it yourself, you know?
Yeah, I think it was like
Um,
she didn't want. It was like $150 for the racket. I think she didn't want to give
uh
me the whole. She didn't want to give me the whole money. Like, she was like, "I give you half," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Figure out how to get the other half," type of thing. And I think, and so yeah.
All right. So then, like, so if you were surrounded by all this stuff, like especially like entrepreneurialism, what made you go into mechanical engineering?
So I always been so mechanical engineering. The real reason I went into it, it was because of
Hmm.
airplanes. I've always I was I I went to like college, um knowing that I was pretty good at math and pretty good at, like, I was like figuring things out. I really was into airplanes, like military jet fighters and all that. So I was really into them to the point that I knew like all the ones that were public. I knew
Hmm.
what they are, like all the models at 15, 16, 22, all of them. Like I knew
Wow.
them as a kid. Not the 22, that hadn't come out yet, but like growing up, I knew like the all of them. And then I was like, man, this is really cool. What do I need to do to work on them? And
Hmm.
come to find out, it was just mechanical engineering, propulsion system, heat transfer, and all that stuff. So that was kind of what got me interested in it. Um, and then when I even signed up for the ROTC Air Force. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, that was more of a, hey, these credits are free. Okay. And it also, and you're probably gonna get an A.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was more of that, but also it was a really good learning experience, right? It was cool.
Hmm.
Like they took us to Colorado. They took us to Colorado Springs, to the Air Force Base Academy to.
Nice.
And so that was part of the reason I felt I really like Colorado and moved there after college. So
Mm.
it's all kind of connected. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was airplane, and it's funny because my last job before I jumped ship into entrepreneurship was with a company that just basically jet engines.
Wow.
Realize it's a lot less of a glamorous job than you would think as a kid.
So, so here you are, right? Like, it's a Puerto Rican kid in the middle of Colorado working on jet engines. Like,
Yeah,
your dream has come to reality in a sense, right? And
yeah,
then, like, rather than being like, "Hey, I'm happy, let's just ride this out," you're like, "Let's see what kind of side hustle I can have on top of this."
yeah. It was part. It was. I feel like I was also self sabotaging myself in that,
Hmm.
not in the job because I was doing well, but I was always trying to like find the littlest thing to be unhappy about. And it wasn't like big things. It was just like, oh man, I have to do this. Oh crap, like bosses. Like it was like even if I had the greatest boss, I would
Yeah.
always have to find something to complain about. Just so I'm like, and it wasn't like it was just like me, and I would like complain to my wife, and I wasn't never like, it was never a team. Like I would never like try to like sabotage the team we had, but
Hmm.
it was like that feel of like I'm stuck to this cubicle. And I remember vividly, one of the turning points was actually, it was out here in Connecticut. I was working with
Hmm.
a similar company that it was also jet engines. That This is this is interesting story. This is after I started. This is was still I had the side hustle. This is after I
Hmm.
started the prepper side, and it was
Okay.
something that um, we the story, it was we had a boss. It was just kind of a little crazy, but I remember he wasn't my boss. He was my boss's boss. But my boss said, "Hey, there's a meeting at 5 o'clock. I need a slide pitch for this." And then he kind of explained
Hmm.
what he needed. It was this like probably like around noon. So I spent the next 3 or 4 hours just putting together this pitch, making it look good. What pitch is like a slide deck, and making it
Mhm.
look good, and just all the info, the graph, blah blah blah. And then like 4:30 comes around, rolls around, and I send it to him. He just kind of and then say, "Hey man, you got that? Yeah, I got it. Okay, cool." And then like I'm literally like I'm ready to turn my computer off and start packing to go home. And he
Mhm.
pulls, he kind of he say, "Hey, come on over." And he pulls me in, and then he walks with me into the meeting room at 5 o'clock. And I remember sitting there pissed, like because at this point I had a kid. I had my
Yeah.
first
So
daughter.
yeah, let's give some reference here because you're were you newly married at this point?
No, this was after my well, this was after my first kid. This was kind of like
Okay,
just before I went full on time, full time. And
gotcha.
so this was
Full
like,
time
'cause
like entrepreneurial.
yeah, I had been
Yeah,
making money with a prepper.
yeah.
I had been
Okay,
making money already, but this is what just kind of like drove me over the edge. Like it was like,
yeah.
come on. And it was so I had a kid at home, which I wanted to go see, and it was like a 40-minute commute in traffic, and now
Mm.
like it was like it was really kind of like painful. Like just to know like, so I just like left in the morning, left my kid, drop her off, or she's staying home, whatever that day was.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
now I don't see her like till like she's ready for go to bed. So basically, I don't see my kid. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that day I was like, "Fuck, sorry." It was like, "Screw this."
It's all right. It's all
I
right.
was so upset. It was like that. Honestly, was like for me it was like I gotta make this work full time, because at that point again
Mm-hmm.
I was making decent money, but it just wasn't enough to replace my income, my full time income as an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like the peak, right? It was like I can't, jump
Mm-hmm.
ship without having. So that was kind of against all you teach. Against all you teach about burning the boats. To me, it was like
Yeah.
I got to go with my vest and parachute at the same time.
Right.
Um,
So let's take a break for a second and kind of just get some context here. Um, so in between Colorado, like even though you were working on jet engines in Colorado, you still had that. There's just something isn't right here. I want to do a little bit more. So you start side hustling,
yeah,
right? And I'm
yeah.
assuming that's when you started the prepper.
No, so the
No.
prepper came. No, so the prepper came. So I was
Oh yeah. Sorry, you
back.
were doing like eBay and domains
I
stuff
was
like
doing
that.
eBay. I was doing domains. I was doing. This was actually I did sell a few of these. I was doing
Mm-hmm.
a tennis instructional program in Spanish, and
So
I
just for the listeners, right? All of a sudden, now we have tennis, we have prepper, we have eBay, we have domains. So you know that Jose is the type of person that's just like, hey, like you said earlier, let's try to make some money here, let's make some money here, let's make some money here. Until you're trying to find something that sticks,
yeah, and like I
right?
said, like I said, I had gone through every course, and I was like, oh, I gotta. So I was trying things like, what can I make it work? And to me, it was like, oh, you gotta find a niche. The niche is the key. For the longest time, I thought
uh,
it was that if you're in the right niche, you make it. So I was like trying all these things. Come to find out that the niche is, yes, is important, but is less important than you actually that
mhm.
actually thought back
It
then.
is.
So I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, I know how to play tennis. I speak Spanish. I could teach some of this. Which I had a guy in Peru create me a whole set of DVDs for like $400, so like a full course, and I probably sold like 10 of them for like 50. So I probably broke even ish. Uh, yeah, I probably broke even there.
Okay.
And but then, yeah, so that was in Colorado, and then I kept doing that. I was doing also. I was doing kind of like SEO, and this is when I really this is when I really kind of like no. So it was kind of like on my own, my own thing. I had
Hmm.
my wife at the time was my, even though we weren't engaged, was my girlfriend. So I was doing
Hmm.
my thing, playing, instead of playing video games, I was playing business over here. So
Yeah.
whatever. And then she had just graduated law school,
Mm.
and this is 2008 too. So economy is kind of iffy. So
Yeah.
things are all over the place. Yeah, 708, yeah. And so she opened her own law firm, and we were like, all right, how do we market this thing? And that's kind of how I got into, because I was a lot into the info products and just building your email list. But that's when I got into like traffic generation and kind of like direct response type of thing.
Mhm.
That's when I really got into that type of marketing. I got the book, which I probably still have here. Yeah, this one. This like No BS Direct Response Marketing by Dan
Dan
Kennedy.
Kennedy. Yep.
Yeah, the pages of this are probably like yellow at this point. I don't even know when I got this, but I remember thinking of using that and some of his stuff to
Mhm.
to kind of learn marketing and implement some of those things in her business. And all of a sudden she started getting business. And then so I bought the domain immigrationdenver.com, which was $10. Yeah, and I was like, this domain. So again, I was into domains already, so I knew
Yeah.
that was valuable. I didn't
Yeah.
know how much power it was behind the SEO at the time. This was like, again, 2009, which you could throw anything up with a couple of keywords and it worked. So she was
Right.
getting a lot of clients. So some of the other lawyers in her circle starting asking, "Hey, how are you doing that?"
Yeah.
So I kind of stumble upon creating websites and doing SEO for some lawyers and attorneys and
Meanwhile, you're still working on rockets.
meanwhile I'm
And-
still working. Yeah, I still have a
Yeah.
full-time job doing it. You say rockets, it's a lot more paper pushing than actually building rockets.
Listen, man, we're gonna go with rockets, man, because that sounds cool.
So so this is a joke that we go like you learn like propulsion system and thermodynamics in engineering school. What they really should teach you is PowerPoint and Excel. And that's such a cliche, but it's like, yeah, that is I forgot everything at this point about propulsion, and it's all I know how to master Excel as like a wizard. But anyhow, so I know I'm jumping all over the place, but that's kind of the timeline is kind of like I was still in Colorado. We were still there, and I started doing marketing for her. It was doing really well. Like she moved from our little apartment office to like a full office. She brought another attorney in, so she was doing well.
So
just with the marketing.
While you're doing like all the SEO stuff for your wife and for the other like local lawyers, did you also have a separate side hustle on top of that too? Or did that become your side hustle?
That kind of became my side hustle because before that it was like the tennis product and it was all the eBay stuff that I was doing. With eBay, it was more drop shipping, so that was kind of automatic. It wasn't a lot of marketing.
So what happened? Like, I'm assuming it was just the fact that it was your wife, but like, what triggered you to just say, you know what, I got to stop with these mini side hustles and focus solely on like the SEO stuff for immigrationdenver.com?
It was because actually if you go to immigrationdenver.com right now, that's the firm that's there is like, so my wife sold the business and like that was her partner and another. So now we went to Denver a couple of years back and went to the office and they were like, the whole floor was there. So we're like so proud. It was like our kids just grew up and just built this office and like 3 lawyers and like, it was so fun.
Very cool.
So she's not, she's not part of that anymore. But I stopped because it was a lot of work to figure out a new niche to go into, which already I had lawyers coming to me asking me about this. So I was like, I might as well ride this way.
Did your wife automatically know she wanted to be an immigration lawyer, or did you guys do like some SEO stuff to figure out that's where she wanted?
She did want to go. Yeah, she's her entire degree is on like immigration, like, so she has a degree in international human rights and some other like.
So she knew she wanted to do immigration.
Yeah, and she's
right.
Like,
so so then that's when you came in to help.
Right. Yeah, she had the office before. She had the office before I started doing like the marketing for her. Like
and that's when you discovered like direct response marketing through Dan Kennedy. Started applying it, and then you're like, holy smokes, this stuff is actually working.
Yeah, right. So it was like a combination of direct response with SEO and but I mean it was everything was kind of iffy because there's some rules around attorneys that if anybody done marketing for attorneys, there's some rules that you can't be too outwardly marketing or too outreachy. It's more about broadcasting findings. So you have to like still that direct response was helpful because you still have to.
It's more of a pull strategy than a push strategy.
Yeah. So that direct response of like, hey, get your free thing.
Hmm.
was helpful, you know.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
so that's kind of how that went. And then, but it was a ton of, I kind of discovered I didn't love client work, which is
Mm.
ironic because I'm still doing client work. But it was just a lot of management of a lot of moving parts. SEO was still kind of weird. So you would be like first page on 1 week, and then the other week you're not there, and then the following week you're like everything is there. So it was like very iffy, and it was just nerve wracking to like, hey, I can't build a business just on this. It's SEO tomorrow. Like then you get it. That's when the whole Google slap thing kind of became famous, and
Gotcha.
everybody was
So,
getting slapped.
so between like the SEO stuff, the side hustles that you didn't commit to, did you ever consider any of those failures?
No, well, failure in the sense of, so yes, so I did consider them failures from the standpoint of like, well, that was a waste of time, right?
Hmm.
In hindsight, obviously that's different, right? I see a lot of like everything is a lesson, basically. Everything taught me something. Like for instance, the SEO, when everybody started getting slapped, and everybody started just like getting quality scores were the most important, and then
Hmm.
all that PR and whatever PR rank. The I just got tired of chasing it, and to me it was like, well, there's got to be a way just to get people here without having to do the whole SEO. Because the other thing that was frustrating, it took a while to do the content strategies and the placements of the links and the backlinks and all whatever, back in the day. None of that works now, right? So don't, but
Hmm.
it took a while to then all of a sudden it worked for a little bit, and then you just have to go start again. And it was just like spinning my wheels. And it actually was, I give credit to Ryan Dice on this. So, that he had a presentation that he talked about. It wasn't his quote, but he talked about the quote of somebody, and I'm not going to know who it is, but I think it might have been Dan Kennedy, but saying like, whoever can if you can buy your customers at a profit, you win. Or like, if whoever can spend the most to buy a customer wins. And to me, it was like, buy a customer. What is he talking about? And that's when I kind of like flipped the switch and started tuning into advertising. And
Mm.
and to me, that was like an aha moment, because I could just say I could just turn on the customer generating
Yeah.
spigot,
Yeah.
right? And as an engineer, that's very predictable. That's very, okay, I can control that to an extent, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not like I have to pray that Google doesn't slap me next month, right?
So it's a very different strategy, because with Google, it's, you're kind of chasing the white rabbit the entire time,
Yeah.
right? Whereas with advertisement, for every dollar you put in, especially online, you can track,
Yeah.
right? So there's more of a science to it than rather than just like, let's cross our fingers and hope.
And it was also like you would, for SEO, you have the whole article, the whole content strategy around it, and you would hit several keywords, ideally the ones you're looking for. And this was back in the day. This was when AdWords was starting. So we were like, you could just get immigration Denver, immigration lawyer Colorado, and all those like long tail keywords for pennies. The clicks, they were just like, so. And I just told my wife, hey, if you have a little bit of a budget, this is going to be big.
Do it.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, whoa, this is crazy. And it worked really well in that sense. I mean, back then we left a lot because we weren't building a mail list, an email list. We weren't really building that. It was all like traffic to the site, traffic to the different specific pages that had the services that they were looking for.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like an invisible funnel, buying from the click to the page to whatever, right? So
Right.
So they
So there was a lot of learning, right? So you gave up the tennis side hustle, the eBay side hustle, to focus on the SEO stuff. And then over time you learned that SEO was kind of like, it could only get you so far before you started doing advertisements. And then once you started focusing on advertisements, you're like, okay, so I guess we can start tracking what we're spending and seeing if that actually produces a return. And therefore, obviously back then Google ads were, significantly cheaper than they are today.
Right.
So at that point, you're like, okay, forget this creating an article stuff. let's just go after paid traffic.
Right. Yes.
And then did that grow the business even more?
It grew that office. I mean, yeah, to the point, like, again, like that she brought in another lawyer. So the thing that I didn't do more of that because I saw the benefit and I saw my wife's business growing. I was having a hard time selling that at the time. Like, and it was probably because I'm not a great salesperson. But the lawyers, they just wanted to keep doing SEO. They just wanted to keep doing all that stuff. And I kind of got, tired of it. And then at the time we were getting married and ready, this is about 2012.
So this is kind of like very similar to like what happened in the corporate world where you were like, I'm good being a team player, but there's still something wrong here.
Yeah, and not only that, I knew it was kind of like this is building like a business based on, this specifically with the SEO, and it was kind of I did know that if I ever went back into niche products and all that stuff, I would go into see like the advertising venues for it and the avenues that I would have for it. So, but then at the time, so we get married and then we decided to move to the East Coast, which is a lot closer to Puerto Rico, and my wife's family's from New York. So
right
at that point, my wife decided then to sell her law firm, stop being a lawyer. And then we moved to the East Coast. I kind of like transferred to that engineering job here. And I kept at that time I was ready to, I didn't want to do more of the services and the kind of advertising stuff. And I hadn't been able to make any of the niche stuff work. So that's kind of one I kind of like gave up and like let everything kind of expire to, figure, hey, I'm good here. I'm just kind of didn't want to start from scratch again.
So when you gave that stuff up, right, what were you thinking at the time, and what triggered the next thing to come afterwards?
So to me, it was just like, all this stuff is cool. And anyhow, so I was making money with some of the clients that I had, but it wasn't ever, never enough to leave my job. And I felt it was going to be just like a hustle the whole time, which
so it wasn't worth the time.
No, which is funny because back then we were not married, but we didn't have kids. We barely had pets. So it was like I had all the time in the world to do it back then if I chose to back then. But of course we don't see that when we're there. But then, so I also had like a Puerto Rico travel site. I just remember. Yeah. I mean, you know me. I still have a lot of domains, but the timeline worked there. Was like, okay, I'm just going to start this new position here. She was going to start a new business in the pet industry that she wanted to go into. And then we had some, a little bit of income from the sale of her law firm. I didn't, and then this, I mean, I would still like sell stuff on eBay here and there, or like if I saw something that was cool. One thing I would sell on eBay, which you could probably still make, were ink cartridges and toner cartridges.
Ink cartridges, yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Nice.
You could probably make this work too still. Yeah, and they were drop shipped. It was a beauty. It was awesome. But anyhow, so I was kind of still selling some stuff. I never fully gave up all that stuff, but it wasn't making a lot of money. It was just never there. And that's right around the time when we hit the truck, the literal truck.
Bam. So when you were in Connecticut and you hit the truck, and so obviously you're in Greece, you don't speak the language, your body's broken and beaten, you return to the States, and I'm assuming you have some time off from work, right?
I did. I was out for about four months.
4 months, okay. So let's fast forward a little bit and talk about preppers. How did that cross your mind and say, you know what, I want to create a business in the prepping world? And for those of you who don't know what preppers are the people that are expecting kind of like the end of the world type of situation. It's not necessarily the end of the world, but they want to be ready in case anything happens. So bug out bags, survival gear, that kind of market.
Yeah. So imagine if there's like a global pandemic and and you have to be
I wonder.
quarantined at home for months at a time. So you have enough food and water, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is the COVID-19, episode. So it's kind of
Yeah.
super like super relevant. Anyhow, the at that time I was sitting on a bed and barely my only commit I had we had just pets, we didn't have kids, so my only commitment was to just do PT when the physical therapist came to the house, or when I had to go to the PT office to do the exercises, and it was, I was kind of just bored because I was, it was about a week of like, okay, I had nothing to do. I was in pain, but I gone through surgery. So I was kind of like healing and whatnot. I was doing some exercise. But other than that, I was just like sitting home watching TV, not doing much. And it was like, man, I got to do something.
Yeah.
So I knew of the preppers space because of like randomly just stumbling upon some YouTube videos, or I realized my grandparents were also preppers. That's kind of like looking back, yeah.
Gotcha.
Because that factory they had was like almost a bunker. Yeah.
So your grandparents taught you a lot in terms of
yeah,
who you
for
are, like,
sure.
from the entrepreneurial side, the prepping side.
For sure. I remember when in Puerto Rico we get hurricanes, like there were every year basically. I remember going up to that factory up there and just hunkering down the whole family when there was when there was a big hurricane. Yeah, that was for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So you got that prepping experience and you're like, hey, you know what? Let's start a prepping business.
Well, it was, I knew, and I honestly don't remember how I knew that there was money being made. I just know there were some companies making money there. I was aware of ClickBank, which is that affiliate network, you can sell products or promote products. So I went.
ClickBank, for the listeners who don't know, is the largest affiliate network, I believe, online right now. So pretty much, it's like a database of companies that have products to sell, and they're looking for people to send them traffic to buy the product. So that's a great way to start a business without actually having to go through and actually starting a business. You can pick a market, sign up at ClickBank, and then look at products that relate to your market, and then you can get going in that direction. So anyways, go back to your story, Jose.
Yeah, so though from my multiple research experience, from going from niche to niche to niche to niche, I knew the indicators of a market that was making money.
So what are the indicators, real quick? This is gold.
The things that I look for, and back in the day, was basically, are there companies advertising in the space? Meaning, if somebody's spending money to reach an audience, it means there's some way they're making money back. Otherwise, they're just, unless they have endless, endless pockets. So you would go to Google, type in the keyword that will be related to the industry, and see if you see ads on them. That was kind of like the first. I learned that from John Reese initially, but then and then you go to eBay. That was one of the reasons. One of the things I learned to navigate eBay really well. I still to this day I'm pretty good at eBay. Even finding like listings with typos that nobody's bid on because it's a typo. So anyhow, so I would go to eBay, see if they have on the sold section there were products in that space, and I would go to ClickBank. So that was kind of my litmus test there. Like I went to eBay. There were tons of like prepping, like food store and like knives and all that stuff. And I went to ClickBank. There were a bunch of products there. And then I went to Google, and there was a bunch of people, a bunch of companies advertising there.
So you found people spending money and people buying.
Right.
So boom. All right. Awesome. So you found that, and then
my idea was going to be just create content, just curate content, just basically grab content from all these sites, put lists together, and just do that, and then build an email list, and then send them to affiliate offers. That was my whole idea. I never even intended to do any products. I never intended to create any content. I mean, my own content, because I wasn't an expert, so I wasn't going to. So I went to like.
So you were going to create like a publisher, leverage other people's content, find the best stuff, put it under your brand,
Mhm.
and then send people to affiliate offers.
Right. Basically, that was the whole plan. Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
And then
How'd that work out?
I mean, it was the same as always. I was making
Yeah.
some money. The list was growing snail pace. It wasn't
Mhm.
really going too fast. It was just like, but I had no, like, this was every day I would write a new blog post. It has like the whole day to write because I had
So
nothing else going
so
on.
you were relying more on a content approach versus like a paid traffic approach.
Yeah, because I wasn't
Okay,
that committed that I was gonna do ads. I just
gotcha,
wanted to just add content and try to see if I could get traction from there.
gotcha. Okay.
Trying to refigure out SEO actually because it had changed
Mhm.
so much, and even it had been probably like 2-3 years, and I knew it had changed a lot.
Right.
Um, so I started doing that, and again, it was just like out of doing something. I never intended it to be anything big or replace my income at all.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
now and then I after a couple of, I'll say, months into that, I went back to work and I started, kind of kept going and kept building the list. And then I got turned into the idea of virtual summits.
Mm.
And then to me, it was like, well, that makes a lot of sense because I don't need to be an expert.
Mhm.
I can just interview people,
Mhm.
connect with them, and then just send them to, selling them recordings, selling the products.
Mhm.
And that's really kind of where it started. Like it was like, well, okay, let's just do one of these. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And then from knowing no one in the industry, I started reaching out cold to a lot of them. Um, and lo and behold, like 3 or 4 months later, I had done my first summit. It was like 16 speakers. Um,
Dang. So without you being an expert, without you even knowing how to survive yourself or anything like that, the idea of a virtual summit, so AKA a virtual conference.
yeah. So a virtual summit,
Yeah.
like for those who don't know, basically you have a series, you just basically a series of interviews or
Mhm.
presentations that the way I run it is they're free for a specific period of time, and you can own the recordings or buy the recordings, and that's the monetization part of it. But it's basically a
Mm.
conference, like a virtual conference. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you're like, okay, well, this publishing stuff model isn't really working, but let's try this virtual summit. So I can meet experts, interview them for their expertise, and then pass that off as value, package it up with about 20 other speakers, or I think you said it was 15 your first one?
16. Yeah.
16, right? So package up with 16 other experts, and then as a whole, sell the recordings of that summit.
Yeah.
And how'd that go?
It went well. I mean, it made more money in that, 'cause that was January. It made
Uh-huh.
more money in that month that I had made in the last 4 years of trying something else.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
granted, so the SEO part with lawyers that had been generating some money, that generated more, but
Mm-hmm.
all the niche stuff that I had ever done, I had never like. So that
The
one
summit.
made, yeah, that summit made around $6,000.
Did you spend pay any advertisement money on it?
I spent about $200-300 on Facebook ads,
Wow.
and then I
Okay.
had one affiliate.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So
that was it.
almost a 2 to 1 ish return.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
remember I used this thing called Gumroad that I
Mm-hmm.
that I that I used, and I had the app on my phone.
Uh-huh.
Um, well, I think it was just the browser. I don't think even the app. I just the browser. I just had it save, and I just kept opening and refreshing it. That's what it was. And
Yeah.
I remember I was in Florida in Disney World, and I was like with my family, just checking it all the time, just like going there. And
Seeing the orders come in.
yeah, it was such a weird. It was so. I was like,
All
my
right,
wife was like,
family, we're getting fast passes. Let's go.
yeah, I know, yeah. This next fast pass on me. No, but
that that's awesome, man.
and by this point we already had our first daughter had been born at this point when we
Mhm.
did the first one. So leading up to the summit, I was doing interviews before she was born. Like she was born in
Yeah.
October, and the summit was in January. So I was doing all the interviews before, just trying to do as many things as I could before she
So
was
so
born.
so perspective, right? Because I love perspective, right? So you're at your job still
Hmm.
full time,
Yep.
right? you got an expected mother along the way trying to manage all that and make sure the baby's safe, and it's
Yep.
your first kid. So,
Yep.
I'm not a parent yet, but I'm imagine you're freaking out, right?
Yep.
And then you're like, I got to do a virtual summit on preppers and get in front of these experts, even though I myself am not an expert in this field.
Right. And I didn't see, like, I saw the fact that I wasn't an expert as a bonus, as a plus, because I could see and ask questions from the beginner standpoint that they may not think of, or they may not even explain in some of the other content.
And what did the experts tell you? Like, did they ever ask you, like, well, who are you and what do you do, and like how did you handle that, or did that even come up?
It was more of a question of like, what the hell is a virtual summit? It was never about, I mean, most people were very nice, like very nice. And one thing that I thought of back then that was strange, and now it's kind of used to it. It was like, I thought the preppers were crazy. These people are very normal.
Yeah.
What they're saying is kind of out there, but everything else about them is very normal. So I was like, there's something else here.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, I mean, now to this day, you'll find some wackos, but there's a lot of people that are like, I mean, especially with this COVID-19 thing, they're all like, told you, right?
Yeah, told you. I bet they're like, I'm glad my bunker's in use now.
Yeah.
So was it before or after your first summit that your boss pulled you in at that 5:00 meeting?
It was after that.
It was after the first summit.
Yeah. So I had done my first summit, and I was still at the job. I did my second summit, and I was still at the job. Yeah.
How did your second summit go? Was it better?
Was way better. Yeah. And it was way better because, so I had no idea what I was doing with ads in the first summit, which is why I spent only $300. And I was like, I'm spending $300 from this thing. I don't even know if this is going to be, I had no clue how I was going to do whatever.
Yeah.
Turn around $6,000. So I was freaking out. I was like, oh, I should have spent a lot more. So on the next summit, I went a lot harder on ads, and I went a little bit harder on recruiting affiliates. So that second summit went, and it did around $30,000.
Your second summit did $30,000. So at that time, what was your salary, if you don't mind?
So at that time, so it was around $100,000 a year.
Okay, but that's in a year, and over the course of what, 3 days?
Well, a week, yeah.
Yeah, a week, right? So in the course of a week, we made 30 grand.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Crazy.
No. Yeah. Yeah. And then I mean, that's revenue, right? So like about $8 grand of that went to affiliates, and then there were some ad spend. So we probably took home, like 18-ish.
Still not a bad day, not a bad
great.
Week, right?
Now I said it's a week, but I mean the work of it is about probably 2.5-3 months worth of work from beginning to end. Right. So
okay, all right, and then so you did your first summit, and you're like, this is awesome. You did your second summit, and went a heck of a lot better. Did you do any more summits after that?
Yes. So I did my third summit. So one thing that I did, I had done, like, I think it was.
Now, hold on. Were you using different speakers or the same speakers, or?
Both. I had some of them that were the same, and I had some of them that were different speakers. Because what happened from the first to the second, it happened that was people had no idea what the summit was, and they were saying, some people said no, they don't want interesting. And once they saw it, they were like, oh. They were starting messaging me, hey, could I be in the next one? I'm like, sure. They kind of saw what it was. They were like, oh. So I got a lot of that. And
now, did you pay these speakers, or were they free, or how does that work?
They're all free. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, they're all free.
So literally, they're just getting on an interview with you, and you're just asking them questions for free.
Yeah. Yeah, and that space also, the affiliate, the ones that were affiliate, they kind of knew what was happening. They kind of knew the concept of the summit and affiliates. But most of the other speakers had no idea. They didn't have even an email list. So all they knew, they were just getting on a podcast call, right?
Gotcha.
or like an interview, and then after that, I didn't require them to mail or anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then did some of your speakers become affiliates?
If like two or three.
Gotcha.
2 or 3, yeah.
Okay.
But then the third one we did similar, did about 35,000, but it was that was with less affiliates, so I took home a lot more. That's
Gotcha.
when I went in. I was like, that's when I kind of figured that I needed to do a lot more intensive Facebook ads and my own advertising. And at the time, Facebook, like, this is the time that you can advertise a knife normally on Facebook without any no problem.
Yeah.
But those
Yeah.
credit card knives were like every ad. Like you could do basically any ad. There was, and then the audience, and it was the Wild Wild West, right? Which was just, at the time, was great.
5 years ago, man.
So I was lucky enough to capitalize on that, because now the audiences that I have on my ads are pretty mature and pretty honed in.
Gotcha.
But yeah, and then after the third summit, then I launched a membership site, and that's when things kind of changed. Because
with the membership site, you had recurring revenue coming in.
Exactly, and that's when I didn't have to make money on the front end of the summit, because they were signing up for a membership and getting that recurring revenue. So to me, the summit became more of a vehicle of just getting leads in.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I love the fact that, like, I'm a big fan of virtual summits, and I think that it's like, I love the idea of a virtual summit on the front end to then feed all your back end stuff, like courses specifically, even memberships too. And I think, like, I mean, you did it, right? You did 3 summits, and then boom. And I think there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's more incentive that, like, summits are great, but after a while, it's like it tends to be a ton of work to do summit after summit after summit.
Yep.
So you're going to need to have those back end offers to kind of let you breathe a little bit.
Yeah, the downside of the summits, and unless you can do your machine, you're just doing summit every month, but like you're gonna be, it's feast and famine. You have a month or a week of $30,000 a week, but you're not gonna get anything else for the next 2 months until you're able to pull out your next summit. So in reality, you're stretching that 30,000 on like 4 months, which is still pretty good, but you're not. It's not like you're not doing 30 grand a month. This, with the membership, it was like, okay, I'm not making 30 grand a month, but I'm making like 3 here. Next month you're making like 4, and then next month it's going like 4,500 next month. So you kind of keep smaller, but it's just like consistent. And it's more of a predictability in it.
Because it's like, rather than having to start at 0 at the beginning of every month, it's like, now I know I can expect a certain amount of sales every month. So that gives you more security. So I'm assuming, so did you launch the membership like the same time that you left your job, or before? I'm assuming it's either the same time or after you left your job.
It was before. So I launched the membership before I left the job. So
Gotcha.
I really left the job so the membership was giving me solid income, and also I picked up a few clients to do a few things in the survival space and that kind of like that complemented everything. I was like, okay, this makes sense. And the
security blanket was there for you to be like, you know what, I can leave this and take a chance on this.
Right. Because it was like, at this point I had a kid, and it was like, so and then when I left, like, so when I left, I think I had one kid. No, I still have one kid. And I have 2 now. I just lose count. I lose count how many kids I have in the house.
So just for reference, like, Jose has 2 kids. You got 2 dogs now, right?
Just one. Yeah, we lost
just
one.
I thought you got the little puppy or the adoption.
Oh well, it's a foster puppy that.
You got 2 dogs, man, and you got
it's out of control.
You got 2 cats, and you have a bunch of bears in your backyard. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, so my wife now is a dog trainer, and she's done like extensive education and certification and training and everything. So now the foster, like the rescue, is like, hey, we have a problem puppy here. Could you take it? I'm like, no. And but by the time they're like, oh, I have a puppy, I'm like, oh, great.
what did your wife think about all this when you were doing it? Did she think you were crazy? Did she
No,
encourage you, or what?
she she encouraged, like, she was a little concerned when I actually went full time, obviously, because the
Mhm.
biggest thing is like health insurance, right? It's like such a big
Mm,
issue here in the
yeah,
States that you lose. I mean, we have very good coverage. So it was kind of like, it was scary in that sense, which is still a little scary. It's still
yeah.
something that it's not fixed, but it's better. Like, we're on the exchange. But the 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 idea of entrepreneurship and kind of like, we've been always she's always been very encouraging, and she can't say anything because she's never had a job since we met. She went out of law school. No, she came out of law school. She had a law firm, and she ran
Uh-huh.
that successfully. And then we moved to Connecticut, and then she started a business here. Well, she
There you go.
started training period, and then kind of like she did work for a couple of people like in that space, but then and then she went her
I
own
love
to
it.
her own business. Yeah,
I
I
love
tell her that you never had a job. You can't hold a job. I tell her.
it. You're not employable.
Yeah, it's like I'm a terrible employee too. I'm like, just yeah. But
Awesome, man.
yeah, she was very supportive, and the idea, like, now, like with two kids and like the flexibility and be able to do things like that, you never stop working, but you're working where you want on the time you work, you have the ability to.
Bam.
Oh.
And so, you left the job and then you did your fourth summit, right?
Mhm.
You already have the membership site too. So I'm assuming that the sales funnel was like sign up for the summit, buy the recordings, get into the membership.
Yep.
And then how successful was that fourth summit?
That fourth summit, I'm trying to remember because that one, I know we got a recurring of like 6,000 to 7,000 on the membership
Mm,
off of that. On the summit, I think I want to say it did around 40,000.
mm-hmm,
We put a bunch of back to the ads, and we
mm-hmm.
had affiliates, so it's kind of like we're trying to almost break even on that one.
Gotcha.
It was the first time I was like, okay, I want to try to put as much money as I can on these
Mm,
ads, which
gotcha.
is one of the cool things about doing summits that are longer instead of like a
Mm-hmm.
3 day. You like the money you comes in day 1 or 2, you can just go put back into ads right then and there, right? So
Yeah.
okay, let's say I make $3,000 in the first 3 days, I could put $3,000 back on ads, and that's another however
Right.
many. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
And
then
so,
at the same time, I was getting asked a lot to like with help on other summits. Like other people were asking me, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, how is this? Like, can you?" Because I was showing what I was doing on a brand new market, and people were like
mhm,
interested. And I was starting to show people what I was doing. I was starting to kind of seeing the opportunity there again on virtual summits. On virtual summit.
yeah.
So at the same time, I started working with other people on their summits, mostly consulting and coaching, until I
Mhm.
kind of got a few people to actually do the summits for them.
Got him.
Yeah,
Sweet. And then, so like it's pretty cool how you were able to pivot from like, I am the summit producer to now I am, helping others with their summits.
yeah,
And it's pretty interesting now, like with everything that's happening with like the coronavirus, how like everyone's trying to create an online event with virtual summits and everything like
yeah.
that. So like, what do you think about virtual summits now? Like, do you think someone should do it now? Do you think it's the right time to do it now? Um, do you think they should maybe hold off? Like, what do you think? What do you
I,
think people should be doing?
I think they should, like, as much as you can put into virtual summits, or put an effort onto the virtual content portion. I think that's a great strategy. With summits is, if you're going into a new market or if you're introducing kind of like a new angle of your business, is a great way to do it because it
Mm,
immediately gives you awareness in the market. Um, it's great because say you're brand to an industry, which is the way I was with a prepper, but
mm,
with a summit, you immediately have a reason to reach out to experts. You don't have to have the thing done to show them to them. You can say, hey, I'm planning this thing going live on this date. You want to be part of it. So you have the
mm,
reason, you have a reason and opportunity to reach out to them. You build the list, you create a product with content, and it's content that it's already relevant, and you build on I call it like getting the like influencers mojo. Like you
Mhm.
kind of like ride that wave of their influence and their authority with you. Like it's like that case when you're in the poster with all the cool kids. It's like
Yeah.
the high school, you're basically throwing the party for the cool kids. So you
Yeah.
must be a cool kid.
So yeah, and I mean that's a game changer, because I do a lot of online marketing, and we preach about building the list, and so most of the time that's in the form of webinars or PDFs or ebooks or things like that. But like a virtual summit, if you put on a virtual summit, you bring in 20, 30 experts on a particular topic, and you give that away for free, you instantly stand apart from your competitors. You bring massive amounts of value into the marketplace, and like you said, you get that influencer mojo where now the market seems to well, they look at you as an expert because all these experts are surrounded and you're being interviewed by them and you're interviewing them, providing content. So it's like it literally hits like check, 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 check. It's granted it's a lot of work. I think you said it's like 90 days or 3 months to put a summit together.
Yeah.
But the benefits are just like, come on, like how can you argue against it?
Yeah, and also it gives you like it gives you gravitas. Like people are gonna see, oh, you know this person, oh, you talk to this person, like
Mhm.
you get that automatic expertise. So if you're doing a summit, do it on something you want to stick around and be the expert and be known for, because otherwise you're gonna be known and be the expert on something that, or be seen as the expert on something that you don't know much about. Which
Well,
it's happened to some of our clients that, hey, they're getting requests to interview, be in show and TV, and they're like, I don't know anything about this. I'm just an interviewer.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. All right, Jose. So like where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they know more about virtual summits and how you can help them?
So the easiest place to go is virtualsummitlab.com.
Mhm.
I think that's the best way to find anything that's related to what I have going on.
You also have a Facebook group, right?
I do. So that's the Virtual Summit Lab as well. So we have a Facebook
Awesome.
page, we have a Facebook group, and we have the website. Um, yeah, so that's basically the best place.
Sweet. So, I think the biggest takeaways that we can take away from the past hour or so is the fact that like you weren't afraid to try multiple things on your path, right? And obviously, you did it the smart way, where you had the 9 to 5, you had that security blanket, but you were willing to, okay, let's try the side hustle, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, and then like the recurring theme that I always see is family is super important to you. Like you
Yeah,
didn't commit until going 100% until your wife needed the help with her law firm,
right.
right? And then you didn't commit to prepping until your boss pretty much gave you a crappy situation where you had to pick either the job or missing out on your kid,
Right.
and you're like, well, screw that, I have the security blanket, let me go ahead and do this. And I think that's a common core and a common belief system that I see a lot of successful entrepreneurs have is, here are my values, here's where I draw the line in the sand, and I'm gonna continue doing this because I want to be there for my family and be there to provide for them.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's at the top of my list.
Perfect, man.
Yeah.
Any finishing words for the listeners?
Just don't so for the entrepreneurs out there, give stuff a chance. Like don't jump don't do what I did and go like all over the place. Just give things a chance, and a legit chance, and don't go for the next thing that looks good. And because there's a lot of good marketers out there that will convince you of things that when in reality there might not be 100%. You know, I don't know, how do I say this? The best intentions in mind, so be wary of that. But absolutely, give things a chance, and like nobody don't nobody is going to tell you better than the market. So you just got to try things.
Boom.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you, brother. I love it. I appreciate you giving me an hour of your time and telling us about your story, man. Thank you so much.
That was awesome. Stay sane and stay safe, everyone.
All right, everyone. Have a great day. It has been another awesome episode of Burning the Boats. See you all next week.